So Lisa's report on the activity in the market. So we're going to have a little chat about that at the moment, and in particular the part of the market that obviously interests me, my passion, which is the auction part. And in the studio today live, we've got the heavyweights of the industry. The Society of Auctioneers and Appraisers of South Australia represent all of the auctioneers in this state. And joining us is Paul Henry. Hello, Paul. How are you going?
Afternoon, Anthony.
And Paul's the patron of the Auctioneers and Appraisers. And of course, we've got Damien Popovich. How are you going, Damien?
Yourself?
Did I pronounce that right?
You did.
Yeah.
Well done.
Fantastic. And Damien, you're the current president.
That's right.
So, and the youngest president in the history.
Yeah, it's been a bit of an experience so far, and it's really enjoyable, learning from the likes of Paul and some of the other guys in the industry and yourself. So yeah, it's been a great honour.
So you're amongst the oldest and the youngest.
That's it.
Getting there.
That's it.
And guys, just let's have a look at, just generally speaking, how the auction industry is going. It took a bit of a hammering with the change in legislation. So how would you describe our auction business in South Australia compared to maybe the rest of the country?
Well, I think at the moment, Adelaide auction numbers are running at about 11.8% of properties in Adelaide are going to auction, probably a little bit up from where they were in the last couple of years. I think, I'm sure you'd agree, Paul, the last 6 months we've seen the numbers of auctions go up, and I think that's just as a result of a bit more positivity out there, which has been really good to see.
And you mentioned before we started the show that New Zealand has gone from some really low number. What are the stats with what's happening with the property market over there?
Yeah, in New Zealand at the moment, they were running 10% of their properties to auction 4 years ago, and that's now gone up to 40%. So they've had 4 times an increase in the last 4 years. So they've had a huge shift there in their mindset and the way they're promoting property there. And their clearance rates are up around 70% at the moment.
So, 400% increase in the number?
That's right.
And 70% of them selling at auction?
Yeah. That's right.
So, guys, what most of the people watching would be interested in most, they've got a house to sell, and why would they choose auction? You know, the common thinking is it's a lot more expensive and it's a bit of indulgence from the real estate agency. Just tell me from your point of view, from the official sort of gurus of the industry, what are the main reasons why you'd take a property to auction versus private trading?
Yeah, well, days on market, Anthony, I think it's been a proven fact in recent times that if you want to sell a property quickly, auction will outscore private trading. I think days on market now, the average auction campaign runs over about 3 weeks. Our clearance rates are well above 50% at the moment. We have seen them in previous eras, of course, up to around 75. There are some agencies that do have auction clearance rates of around that, but basically it's days on market. And I think people feel very comfortable with the process now. The fact that the legislation happened a few years ago, much to the introduction of your involvement in those early days, which saw the industry move forward, and I think the profession have come a long way since.
So there was, let's go back in those days where we had dummy bidding that no one talked about. But
well, you say that. No, we say undeclared vendor bidding.
Undeclared vendor bidding
All right.
was the same thing. And so now that it's all completely transparent,
yeah.
My view and my experience is the numbers haven't changed, exactly the same outcomes, but everyone feels confident.
Absolutely, and I think that people are prepared to make an investment in auction marketing campaigns, and also that buyers actually can go to an auction property knowing if a property is put up for auction within a time frame, they know that it's not going to be pulled from underneath them. And that's one of the things that when people make an investment in building inspections, do all those pre-finance approvals, the fact the property is going to be auctioned on a day and specific time, they're going to be treated fairly. And actually it's got more benefits for a buyer than a seller when you look at it like that, because there are a lot of stories where people negotiate privately only to find out that they missed out by a small amount and would have paid more had they had another opportunity. Okay, so you're a buyer out there listening to this at the moment, and what are the steps that you need to do if you are looking to buy a property that goes for auction?
I think it's certainly a matter of making the agent aware that you are interested in the property. Buyers traditionally like to hold their cards to their chest and not show interest because they think there's a disadvantage in that. I think certainly make the agent aware that you are interested in the property. If you need to get your building inspections done, work with the agent. I think from a buyer's point of view, buyers remember the agent's there to assist you buy the property. They're working for the vendor wants it sold, you want to buy it, and the agent's there to make it happen. They're in no way trying to prohibit you from buying the property. So be open with them, be honest, and they'll work with you and you'll probably find you'll get a good result.
And what about the financial requirements and that? Because it's obviously unconditional.
Yeah, certainly advantage for the vendor in that it's an unconditional cash contract. So while it may seem daunting, I think it's quite a simple measure of going to your bank or your mortgage broker and getting a pre-approval so you're ready to go on the day.
Now, deposits and that, just perhaps explain to those that haven't been to auction, what are the requirements of deposit, what's the actual process? So I'm thinking of buying it, I've looked at it, yes, done my building inspection, what are the key 2 or 3 things you just have to do to get ready to go to the auction?
Well, I think the beauty about the pre-registration, if you choose to go down the path of registering prior to the auction day, but most buyers register on the day. But if you make your requirements and say, for a lot of people obviously will want to use electronic funds transfer, and so rather than obviously the days of running a checkbook, you make those arrangements. So you can get varying terms in terms of deposit, settlement dates, and most agents will have that all pre-approved and that's signed off by the vendor. So, you know, everything that you need as a buyer can be approved beforehand. So you don't have to rock up with the cash in your pocket, you don't have to walk up with a bank cheque. On auction day, you make all the terms agreed by the vendor and yourself prior to. And, you know, it's very comfortable. So there's no panic stations. They can go to an auction. And if for some reason that they are not successful, they get outbid on the day, they don't have a bank cheque that they've got to go back and present back to the bank, you know. So agents are really good, and I think the really good auctioneers in this state that actually, and auction agencies that use this method of sale and their clients embrace it, have great rapport and some great experiences too.
Okay, so you're heading to an auction, presumably you then register to purchase, you presumably got your bank finance all squared away, you've set your limits, you turn up on the day, and then physically how do you bid now?
Well, now our requirement now is everyone registers. Obviously, you register on the day. The auctioneer will typically come out and give his preamble, and then get to the exciting bit where they call for the bidding, and that's now really the opportunity to buy. And I think, whilst again a lot of buyers like to sit on their hands, and everyone's scared of showing their hand or being the first one, I'm of the view that you've done all the hard work. Now the easy part, or the fun should begin. So you've come to the game, have a kick, have a crack and give it a go. Yeah, give it a try. There's nothing worse than doing all that work and preparing for it and psyching yourself up for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks and then coming and not having a bid. It's a bit of an anticlimax, I think. So if you come, have a go.
Yeah, and I think also that we try and educate the buying public that they really need 2 figures in mind. One is the wish price, the price they'd really love to buy it for and they feel very comfortable at. And the second price is really the one that the next day they have buyer remorse and go, I wish I'd gone that little bit more. So I think that's really, because these opportunities come along, once in a lifetime, and sometimes properties in South Australia, they can be held in generations. So that opportunity should not be missed for a small amount. And so that's a little bit of advice we give people along the way.
Now the numbers, we have our own number system. What's the general market do? They allocate you an individual number?
Yep, every buyer will generally get a number or a letter, some sort of identifier, and the auctioneer is required obviously to call that number. So you're fully aware of who's bidding, who your competition is, and I think that's again another one of the advantages for a buyer in that you know what your competition is doing. You're not going to sit back there later and saying, I missed out for $500 and didn't know about it. If your competition bids, you've got that decision. You can make that decision whether you come in again or not, and you're comfortable with what you've spent, I think.
Now, just in terms of the vendor has a reserve price that's way out of the range, perhaps explain the benefits of being the highest bidder even if you're the only one at the auction.
Yeah, look, I think on that, it's very unusual vendors today are way out of the range because obviously there's been a lot of pre-discussion prior to, so the vendors have an expectation. We know how many registrations that we've received on the day. We provide that information, and obviously in the appraisal stage there's been obviously price guides in terms of appraisals. But if you are, it is important to be the highest bidder because one of the conditions of the auction sale that most auctioneers announce at the auction is that the highest bidder will have the exclusive right to negotiate. So, for those people that hang back and say, and often we hear, look, I'm just going to here to observe, I am interested but I'm not going to bid, it's probably a silly strategy because quite frankly you've just wasted all that time. So make sure you're the highest bidder and then you'll have an opportunity if for any reason you're just below the reserve. And
presumably then that person holds all the cards because they can negotiate to the conclusion of of the rest of the
Absolutely,
the pack.
and really they have only a window of opportunity briefly after the auction between there, because whilst the vendor there and the agent are on site, there's probably about 20 to 30 minutes, and if they fail to close and put a deal together, then automatically we as auctioneers and agents will go obviously to the underbidders and so on.
All right,
and that happens.
All right, guys, we're going to come back with some more
Thank you.
questions in a minute. But in the meantime, let's go and see some of those going, gone. So let's go and look at the solds.